There you are, right on time. Don't look around. This is for you. You feel that, don't you? That pressure in your chest, like something ancient just sat up inside you and started breathing again. Yeah, that didn't come from nowhere. That is what happens when the purest soul gets touched by something filthy, when something soft, something rare, something almost divine gets dragged through the dirt by hands that were never supposed to reach it. You were never built for this world. That's the part they don't understand. You weren't naive, you were uncorrupted. There's a difference. You saw beauty where others saw opportunity. You trusted where others calculated. You gave without checking the scoreboard. And that made you dangerous in a way they couldn't comprehend. Because purity, real purity, it exposes rot just by existing. So what did they do? They hurt you. Not by accident, not by misunderstanding, no. They studied you first. They watched how you smiled, how you forgave, how you stayed soft in a world that rewards claws. And then they tested it. Just a little at first. A small betrayal, a quiet disrespect, a subtle shift in tone, waiting, watching to see if you'd break character. And when you didn't, they went deeper because something about your light, it offended their darkness. Something about your calm made their chaos feel small. And people don't like feeling small. So they tried to shrink you, bend you, corrupt you, turn you into something they could understand, something ugly enough to justify their own reflection. But here's where the story gets interesting. You didn't shatter, you changed, and not in the way they expected. See, they thought pain would make you weaker, softer, easier to control. They thought if they hit you hard enough, you'd either collapse or become just like them. But what they didn't realize is that pain doesn't destroy something pure. It reveals what it's connected to. And you weren't just connected to light. You were connected to everything, light and dark, creation and destruction, mercy and judgment. You were never just the angel. You were the entire balance, and the moment they crossed that line, the moment they hurt something that was never meant to be touched like that, something ancient tilted. You felt it, didn't you? That shift, that quiet, terrifying silence that replaced your need to explain yourself. That sudden absence of emotion where there used to be empathy. That moment where you realized you don't have to prove anything anymore. That's not healing, that's evolution, because now you're unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. See, when you were pure, they thought they had you figured out. They're kind, they won't react, they'll forgive. Predictable, safe, contained. But now they don't know which version of you they're dealing with. The one who understands, or the one who remembers, the one who heals, or the one who calculates, the one who gives, or the one who takes everything back without warning. And that terrifies them, because you didn't lose your light. You just stopped letting it protect them. Let that sink in. You're still the purest soul in the room. But now, you're also the most dangerous one, because you've seen both sides, and you can move between them without hesitation. You can smile and mean it, or smile and end something. You can forgive, or you can forget someone ever mattered. You can love deeply, or detach so completely it feels like you were never there. That's not broken, that's precision. And here's the part they'll never admit out loud. They feel it. Every time you walk into a room now, something shifts. Conversations change. Energy tightens. People who used to test you suddenly choose their words carefully. Because they don't know anymore. They don't know how far you've gone. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't know if the version of you they hurt is the one they're still dealing with. And that uncertainty, it eats them alive. Because deep down, they know something they can't explain. They didn't just hurt a person. They triggered something bigger, something that doesn't operate on fairness anymore, something that doesn't need revenge. Because reality itself starts bending in your favor. Notice it. The way things are starting to align for you. The way people who crossed you start unraveling without your involvement. The way doors open while theirs quietly shut. That's not coincidence, that's correction. Because when something pure gets violated, the balance doesn't stay quiet. The universe doesn't negotiate, it responds. And you've become the center of that response. Not loud, not dramatic, not chaotic, just inevitable. And that's the most terrifying kind of power there is. Because you don't need to chase anything anymore. You don't need to prove anything. You don't even need to fight. All you have to do is exist exactly as you are now. A paradox, a contradiction, a walking line between saint and something far less forgiving. And the people who thought they knew you, they'll keep watching, trying to figure out what changed, trying to understand why they feel uneasy around you now, trying to convince themselves they didn't create this version of you. But they did. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment they took your softness and treated it like weakness. They built this. And now they have to live in a world where you exist like this, calm, but not safe, silent, but not harmless, kind, but no longer available for damage. And the most dangerous part, you don't even hate them. You just don't need them anymore. And that emptiness where your forgiveness used to be, that's where the universe stepped in. That's where the balance tipped. That's where the story stopped being about what they did to you and started becoming about what you've become because of it. So go ahead. Stay quiet. Let them wonder. Let them overthink every word you don't say. Let them feel that invisible pressure when you're near. Because you don't need to announce anything. The shift already happened, and whether they understand it or not, they're already living in the consequences of touching something that was never meant to bleed. And you see it now, don't you? That strange, quiet realization creeping in like a shadow that finally found its shape. The world didn't end when they hurt you. You didn't collapse. You didn't disappear. No. Something far more unsettling happened. You stabilized, not into who you were before, but into something colder, sharper, something that doesn't need validation to exist. And that's where the real shift begins. Because people can survive kindness, they can manipulate empathy, they can predict forgiveness, but they don't know what to do with someone who has nothing left to prove. That's you now. You don't chase closure. You are the closure. You don't look for justice. You become the balance. And the scariest part, you didn't have to raise your voice. You didn't have to seek revenge. You didn't have to destroy anything, because everything that needed to fall apart started collapsing the moment you stopped holding it together for them. That's what they'll never understand. It wasn't your anger that kept things in place. It was your mercy. And the second that mercy went silent, the cracks they ignored, the lies they stacked, the games they played, they all started echoing louder. And now they're surrounded by the consequences they thought they could outrun. Not because you chased them, but because you stepped out of the way. That's power. Not loud, not chaotic, not desperate, just precise, just inevitable. And here's where it becomes something deeper, something almost poetic, in a way that makes people uncomfortable. You didn't lose your purity, you refined it. You stripped it of its weakness, its need to be accepted, its vulnerability to people who never deserved access to it in the first place. Now your light doesn't beg to be seen. It chooses where to shine. Now your kindness isn't automatic. It's earned. Now your presence, it's not something people get for free. It's something they feel lucky to be near and terrified to lose. That's the duality they created. You, the one who could have healed them, became the one they'll never be allowed close enough to understand again. And that distance, it will haunt them more than any revenge ever could, because they'll remember who you used to be. They'll remember the version of you that would have forgiven them, stayed for them, fought for them. And they'll realize that version is gone, not dead, just unreachable. And that's when it hits them, not all at once, but slowly, painfully. In quiet moments they can't escape. They didn't just lose you, they lost access to something rare, something they won't find again. And you won't look back, not because you're bitter, not because you're angry, but because you've seen what's on both sides now. And you finally understand something most people never will. Being soft in a hard world is a gift, but knowing when to withdraw that softness, that's evolution, that's control, that's dominance without noise. So you move differently now. You observe more, you speak less, you feel everything, but react to almost nothing. And that silence, it will say more than words ever could. Because the truth is, you didn't become darker. You just stopped pretending the darkness wasn't always there. And now that you've accepted both sides, the light and the shadow, the healer and the destroyer, the angel and the demon, you're no longer divided, you're whole. And a whole person, a balanced person, a person who can choose between mercy and consequence without hesitation. That kind of person doesn't get controlled, doesn't get broken, doesn't get played twice. So let them talk, let them guess, let them build stories about what you've become. They'll never fully understand it anyway, because they're still stuck trying to label something that no longer needs a label to exist. And as for you, you don't need revenge. You don't need recognition. You don't need them to regret anything. Because the moment they hurt the purest soul alive, they didn't create a victim. They triggered a transformation. And now you walk through this world like a quiet verdict. A living reminder that when something rare gets pushed too far, it doesn't beg, it doesn't break. It becomes something the universe itself starts protecting. So stay calm, stay unreadable, stay exactly as you are now. Because the story didn't end when they hurt you. That's just when you stopped being someone the world could afford to underestimate. And the next time they feel your presence, they won't see the person they once knew. They'll feel something else entirely, something heavier, something final, something that doesn't need to announce itself. Because it already knows. It's the consequence they can't escape.